Tonight, an explosive crime backfires, sending suspects fleeing with no cash in hand.
It sounded like a heavy, huge shipping container, something metal falling, boom.
The neighborhood shaken awake, the new suspect images police want you to see, and what we've uncovered about the botched bank explosion.
Do you realize it sounds shady that you're not giving us an answer?
Plus, service center grilling, the tough questions Doug Ford's government is facing over how an American retailer got 9 Service Ontario locations.
It's been devastating. It's been brutal.
And flood of frustration, what caused the overflowing problem at a restaurant in the Junction, and the new timeline for when the city will get them out of hot water. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Starting tonight in East York with new details about that botched bank robbery from over the weekend. Investigators say would-be thieves blew up a bank machine at a TD location. And while the ordeal woke a lot of neighbors, the suspects fled with little more than bruised egos as the explosion failed to bust open the ATM or produce any cash. Dale Manukduk is live with more on the story. And Dale, another wild crime story in our city.
Yeah, Chris, police are still holding this scene, and if you can see behind me, there's still a lot of debris underneath that white tent from that ATM machine. Now, you mentioned some of the crimes that we've been seeing recently in this city, really quite dramatic. Last week, if you'll remember, Toronto police describing someone as wearing a horror film ski mask and wielding a machete. Well, today, police are describing what happened here as something they've never seen before, and for sure, very unique. Have a look.
An extremely loud, it sounded like a heavy, huge shipping container, something metal falling, boom. My partner says that's what an explosion sounds like.
Christine Federchuk's partner was bang on. They were woken early Sunday morning by an explosion. It happened steps away from their store along O'Connor Drive. Forensics and Toronto Police's bomb squad are trying to piece together exactly what happened at this TD Bank.
Officers learned that 2 suspects drove a gray SUV to the drive-through banking machine and placed some sort of explosive near the machine.
Police say that 2 men got out of the SUV, waited around the corner while the getaway car parked nearby. About 10 minutes later, the explosive detonated, damaging the ATM. That's when the thieves came back, but they didn't find what they were looking for.
You can see that the suspects ran back to see, I assume, if there was any money that came out of the machine, and there wasn't. So they did not obtain any cash out of that ATM.
CBC Toronto obtained surveillance video of the suspects waiting along O'Connor Drive, then running back towards the ATM. Ultimately disappointed, things didn't work out.
Well, it is very dramatic. It's very, it's something that doesn't normally happen around here.
So stupid, but they didn't succeed, so.
Federchuk said she and her partner noticed something odd late Saturday night.
There had been a white SUV, a Land Rover, with his 4 ways parked right up on the sidewalk between the entrance to the bank and the entrance to the alley. There's a few feet space, and he was on the sidewalk for hours, which made no sense.
Police made no mention of a vehicle matching that description. They did say, however, the suspects fled westbound on O'Connor in a newer dark-colored SUV. Cops also releasing descriptions of the 2 suspects, the first having a stocky build and wearing dark pants with white stripes, a light-colored hooded sweater, and dark shoes with white soles. Suspect 2 is described as thin, wearing dark shoes, dark pants, and a dark jacket with fur around the hood. Chris, TD is working with police. They say that this branch behind me will be closed for a few days. It's expected to reopen on January 31st. As for police, they're asking that anyone with information or video, or if you've seen anything suspicious like that white Land Rover that Christine Federchuk saw, if you have anything like that, contact investigators. Chris?
All right, thank you, Dale. Dale Manukduk getting us started tonight live in East York. A man is in life-threatening condition tonight after he was pinned between a vehicle and a building near Gerrard Street and Broadview Avenue. Police were called to the scene at around 7:15 this evening, and the man in his 50s was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. It's not clear yet how the man became pinned. And in Uxbridge, 1 person is dead and 5 others, including a child, are injured after a collision on a country road. It happened at the intersection of Sanford Road and Regional Road 1 early this afternoon. Durham police say 2 vehicles were involved in the crash. The child suffered life-threatening injuries and was airlifted to Sick Kids Hospital. A woman in her 20s was also critically injured and airlifted to a Toronto hospital as well. Police have not released details about the person who died, but roads continue to be closed in the area as officers continue to investigate. West of Burlington, the province's police watchdog is looking into a fatal crash early this morning involving a pickup truck that fled from police. The Special Investigations Unit says just before 4 this morning, 2 Halton police officers stopped the driver of a pickup truck from speeding on the QEW at Guelph Line. The driver then fled from police, and officers later found the vehicle at the Brant Street off-ramp from the QEW, where it had flipped over. The 4 people in the pickup were all taken to hospital. One of the occupants, a 26-year-old man, was pronounced dead. There's no word so far on the condition of the other people in that vehicle. And in Peel, investigators have charged a man following 2 smash-and-grab style jewelry store robberies. Store security video captured one of the incidents. It happened back in December at the Bramalea City Centre. Police say the accused and 2 other suspects entered a jewelry store in the mall and began smashing display cases with hammers and stealing jewelry. The suspects escaped, and investigators say the same man and 3 other people pulled off a similar robbery at Square One in Mississauga earlier this month. Late last week, police arrested 21-year-old Josiah Maduri of Toronto. He's facing robbery and possession of stolen property charges, and police are still trying to identify the other suspects in the 2 robberies. Turning next to the unanswered questions swirling around Service Ontario centres. Today, the Ford government was grilled on several components of the deal to bring 9 of the provincial service outlets to Staples stores. Talia Ricci is following the story.
There was some tension today when reporters felt their questions about moving Service Ontario into Staples locations weren't being answered.
Why not a Canadian?
Why not put this to open tenders?
Among them, exactly how many taxpayer dollars are going into retrofitting these 9 stores? Why wasn't this a more public process? Also, why is an American company the business of choice?
Do you realize it sounds shady that you're not giving us an answer?
The minister says the move is part of the Ford government's plan to improve how services like this are delivered, touting the convenience of it all.
Extended operating hours, with some being open until 9 p.m. on weekdays, as well as all-day Saturdays until 5 p.m. Close to $1 million in savings over the next 3 years. That factors in the one-time capital investment in the retrofit costs that the government always pays for.
It was eventually confirmed through the minister's press secretary that the cost of construction is $1.75 million. The minister also said staff did reach out to other potential retailers.
Let me be clear, this is not new. It is only new to Staples Canada. The retail partnership model has in fact been tried, tested, and very well received by Ontarians.
What savings are they even talking about? Why didn't they open this up for competitive bidding?
Many of those questions from reporters were echoed today by the official opposition.
The Conservative government needs to come clean about why they are using taxpayer dollars to help Staples and Walmart with their bottom lines.
Meanwhile, the Ontario Liberals wrote to the province's financial accountability officer asking for him to provide an analysis on the decision to award contracts without a competitive bidding process. They're concerned about the taxpayer potentially paying to boost these American companies through renovations and foot traffic.
If there's a sole source, such as Staples, there has to be a reason. And normally it's either urgency or expertise. And I don't see either of those in play.
This expert on corporate governance and accountability is noting a pattern.
It seems to me that the Ford government is developing a track record of not consulting with proper stakeholders.
McCarthy said the pilot project will be evaluated on customer wait times and the efficiency of customer service delivery. 6 of the locations will be open by February 1st, with 3 additional outlets expected in Staples stores within the coming months. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
And looking live at the city tonight, -1 and increasing cloudiness through the evening. Victor Paolo is here with a first check on the weather. And Victor, you also have our weather headlines.
Taking a look at a couple of headlines here. Well, guess what? That sun we got to see today, I was really excited to finally see and feel that sun. Now, we're going to have a little bit more of that this week, but the big theme this week is going to be sun and cloud will be a mix. mild temperatures and cloudy mornings. Now, speaking of average temperatures, your average high this time of year, -2.4 is your average high and -10.9 is your average low. And speaking of sun and cloud being your average temperature, your average scenery for the weather this week, as you can see, a whole lot of the west coast was where that high pressure system was last week. But as we get into this week, you can see that we're going to be having quite the cloudy Tuesday and into your cloudy Wednesday. But taking a look at our 3 and 7 day forecast, you're going to see there's more sunshine in store. But tomorrow morning, my little Emmy and your little ones are getting ready. It's going to be a mix of sun and clouds, 0 degrees, feeling like -5. And our 3 day forecast does tell us that eventually, after all that cloud cover, there will be some sun on the way. Stay tuned to Chris and I for the rest of your 3 and 7 day forecast.
All right, Victor, thank you. We've got an update tonight on a flooded restaurant that's been shut down for nearly 2 weeks in the Junction. Crews have determined a city pipe started backing up, sending the owners scrambling. And Tyler Cheese has more on the trouble and the timeline to fix it.
It's been devastating. It's been brutal.
Jeff Kenny owns and operates the Alpine, a 2-floor restaurant and entertainment venue in the Junction. It's been closed for almost 2 weeks.
We've had 2 weekends of fully booked floors. You know, I'm running around, trying to cancel reservations and, rebook large parties. And my staff, we have 16 people that work here and they're not working.
The problem began when the restaurant's drains and toilets located in the basement began backing up. Staff called 311, and after some investigation, city crews determined the issue was a pipe located in front of the Alpine under Dundas Street West. So today's day 12 of the unexpected shutdown, and while the restaurant has been open for takeout orders over the last couple of days, the owner says that only goes so far.
So I'm coming in here working the hours with my business partner just to help, get some cash flow going again. Because I have payroll this week. Don't know if I'm going to make it, and I certainly can't pay myself this month.
Next door, the Indie Ale House's owner says they haven't been affected as much, but
we've had a couple stops and starts. It doesn't help for deliveries and traffic and people walking by, but it's nothing compared to what they're going through.
He empathizes with his neighbor, thinking of what the industry faced during the pandemic.
It's still just after COVID, even though it's been a couple of years. The neighborhood is still pretty slow since COVID. It's not back to normal for any of us. So it's just one thing after another. I feel pretty bad for them.
As for Kenny, he says he hasn't had any direct communication with the city, and he just wants an idea of when he'll be back up and running.
My staff needs answers. People are scrambling to make money. Like I said, it's going to be almost 2 weeks, and people aren't going to get paid. So I need some answers.
In a statement provided to CBC, the city says the issue is a blocked sewer connection and that repairs are expected to be completed tomorrow. Tyler Cheese.
Returning now with a concession from Olivia Chow on her first budget, set to officially be tabled this Thursday. Today, the mayor says she's decided to lower a proposed tax increase on multi-residential properties.
I can say to you today that we will lower the threshold so that renters will not pay a big increase. Landlord would not be able to use that as an excuse to push up the rent increase. I wouldn't want to see that happen.
Chow saying today she is accepting the Budget Committee's recommendation that a multi-residential tax rate increase should be lowered. The original proposal saw a multi-residential rate increase of 4.5%. Now, Chow did not say where she plans to set the rate at just yet, but that full detailed plan is expected on Thursday. A new home builder in our city to tell you about tonight. The furniture store Leon's says it plans to build 4,000 homes in Toronto, and the community will be built on 40 acres of land near the intersection of highways 400 and 401. That's where Leon's head office is located, and it'll include townhouses, mid and high-rise buildings, and community spaces. The next step is a complete secondary plan with the city, and Leon says it expects that to be completed by 2025. One of Toronto's most eye-catching structures faces an uncertain future. The Cubes in the east end of the downtown have yet another new owner, and plans to redevelop the land into a condo tower are under review. Ryan Patrick Jones has more on efforts from local artists and creatives to try to save it.
A group of musicians and producers are showing off their latest tracks and getting ready for a recording session. But this isn't any ordinary music studio. It's inside one of Toronto's most unusual architectural oddities.
And buildings like these that are unique I can tell you from personal experience, they help develop creative ideas. So an environment like this is really important to people like us, creatives, artists.
Luis Vasquez has been running his music business out of this unit for a year and a half. Musicians can pay to record and work with producers. He also hosts live music and community events. But Vasquez says he's unsure how long they'll be able to keep their creative gathering space alive.
I spoke to some of the other Cube owners, and it seems we're all getting the same uncertainty.
Musician Ronan White says he would be sad to lose the studio to a housing development.
Having one space where I can get my production done, I can listen and preview my music with people that are actually knowledgeable, it's essential. And like, the more and more these things happen, the less spots we actually have to congregate and be ourselves.
It is very much like the high-tech treehouse.
The Cube House was built in 1996 by Canadian architects inspired by similar cube homes in the Netherlands. The previous owner planned a 35-story tower with more than 400 new homes, but that project stalled years ago. Then last November, Block Developments bought the property for $19 million. It also bought 6 of the 9 row houses across the street.
Block says the company's working on a revised development application for the site. The company wouldn't say whether it plans to demolish or if it would move the structure to another location as part of that project. But it says the first quarter of 2025 is the earliest that tenants would need to vacate the building.
Alex Walker brought us inside his recently renovated unit. The beatmaker and music producer opened the doors of his recording studio just weeks ago.
We wanted to build basically like a public studio where you can come as a musician and basically plug and play. So no matter what kind of laptop you got, you can come and use our space, you can come and use our equipment.
Walker says the uncertainty over the future of the space makes him nervous, but he hopes he can get at least a year's worth of recording in before anything happens.
If we at least get a year, I'd be happy, you know, just to be able to say that we were part of the Cube's legacy, you know, we go down with the building too.
Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
Settling into this pocket of mild days, but not much sun this week. Let's get you back to Victor Paolo with the long-range forecast.
Taking a look at the map of North America here, we can see a lot of the mild temperatures are working its way right back up north. As a lot of us 2 weeks ago, we're seeing a lot of blue and purple down here in the southeast of Ontario where we're located. Well, but as we can feel and as we can see, it is much warmer than it has been over the last couple of weeks. But for those waiting for those temperatures to dip back down, well, you got to wait till the weekend to finally experience more colder temperatures. But we'll see more of that when we're looking at our 3- and 7-day forecast. But speaking of tonight, speaking of temperatures, well, it's going to be -1. It's going to feel like -6, and it will be partly cloudy like you can see behind me. Now, another thing we can expect, what we do see here, is a lot of that cloud cover which extends over us over here is going to be a big factor for this week. Now, here's what it's going to look like as we get closer to Tuesday. More cloud cover. That cloud system gets a bit big and wide, but mainly it stays consistent over where we are here in the southeastern of Ontario. As we get into Wednesday as well, you can see it's still going to remain quite cloudy, but the good news is when it comes to precipitation and what's coming from the sky, mainly areas such as Windsor, Sarnia will be getting a bit of snow, but here in Toronto, it's going to remain just cloudy with periods of sunshine for the majority of the week, which I'll take any day of the week. Now, when we're looking at our 3- and 7-day forecast, here's what we can look forward to. For the first 3 days, well, it's going to be quite mild. Highs of 2s and 4s for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and your overnights stay pretty consistent close to that 0 mark. But as we get closer to your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, well, look at that sunshine coming in strong from Friday to Saturday and into Sunday and Monday. But with the sun coming through, we can see those overnight temperatures slowly start to dip. But you know what? It's going to be nice to get a bit of sun, and it's going to be really nice to finally feel that for a couple of days in a row. Hope you have yourselves a good night, and over to you, Chris.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, thank you, Victor. Have a great night. Finally tonight, if you've ever felt a little useless in the repair department, Repair Cafe Toronto wants you to know it has you covered. For years, the volunteer group has been fixing up old furniture, jewelry, even clothing, and we paid a visit to find out how the operation works.
I'm thrilled. Did you take my picture? Look at it.
We fix anything you can carry, basically. We don't fix fridges or stoves or cars. We have electrical fixers, small appliances. We have clothing menders. We have jewelry fixers. small furniture, bikes, books, and computers, so pretty much anything. Hi, my name's Paul Magder. I'm a retired electronics technologist. I used to work in manufacturing, building electronic test equipment. When I retired, I was looking for something to do, and one of my family members mentioned Repair Cafe. They'd heard about it. So we looked it up online and found out that there's an international network of repair cafes. Downloaded their starting kits, and that was 10 years ago, and from then we just took off. In 2019, just before COVID hit, we had done 125 events that year, and we were almost up to 10,000 items repaired since we started. We have now a mailing list of 1,000 volunteers, just like 1,005 or something like that. Basically, we try and fix whatever people bring.
The next thing we're going to do is we're putting a crimp bead.
This was a necklace that I got in Panama over 20 years ago, and it was one of the trips that I took with my mom. And for the last 20 years, it's been sitting in an envelope when it broke. And I thought with the Repair Cafe today, to get it fixed and to be able to wear it again instead of just tossing it out to landfill. It's done. Thank you.
My pleasure. Wonderful. My pleasure. The fact you get to use your head and redesign something completely different. That creativity never stops when you get older.
It may work. The real motivation is the people. I've made so many new friends. You meet really interesting people, and they're so appreciative, and it's just a really beautiful atmosphere at an event, so that's really what keeps me going.
What a success.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Nice to see all those smiles when they get a successful fix. That's it for us tonight. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. We'll see you then.